Alrighty then. Well, it's been quite a while since I've actually made a new video. If you've been watching any of my videos for the last several weeks, they were all recorded on 1 or 2 weekends, and I've just been slowly releasing them one weekend at a time while I started working on other projects that weren't really conducive to being filmed, or I just didn't feel like filming them. So what you're looking at is my current bench. Believe it or not, I actually cleaned it up a little bit before turning the camera on. But one of the things I've been doing is building a new bench, a second bench. But before I could do that, I had to remove all of the lawn equipment from my shed. My workshop, and it is a shed, and so about 3 weeks ago, I built a small aluminum or steel shed outside. That's it. Thought about doing a video on it, but really changed my mind. It took quite a while to build, and it was a big pain in the butt, but there's a lot of videos on there on YouTube about building them, so I kind of skipped it. So anyways, what I've been doing is, let me close this door. Also, I've been putting insulation in my shed. That's what all the silver stuff is on the walls. It's a R6 insulation. It's 1 inch thick. It's some kind of foam with paper and aluminum material. I guess the aluminum reflects heat. Works pretty good. My shed used to be extremely uncomfortable to be in, except in the winter time. Even with the air conditioning running, by the middle of the day, it was too hot in here to do anything. You know, because this is Arizona. Anyways, so starting last year, I started on the side of the shed you're looking at, and got all of this done, and then starting about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I did the rest of the shed. Once I got that done, then I built the outside shed, moved all the lawn equipment, and began working on let's move this back. Been working on this. It's a little bit lower. I have back problems, so some of the things I need to work on, it's better if I work sitting down. This area used to be filled up with lawnmowers, weed eaters, and all sorts of other crap. And so I finished the insulation in a day, and then the next day I built the bench. And the bench is made up of I think they're called 1x2s or something like that, 1x4s, and topped with 3/8 inch plywood, and then I can never remember the name of that stuff. Anyways, the pegboard was already there. I just lowered it. and I built some. I'm trying to come up with ways to use every available space. So I built the shelves on the left. I moved one of my bench power supplies over to it and some other stuff, and I moved the top part of my toolbox on top of the bench, and I put my generators under the bench, and I can do a wonderful thing, and that's take my chair and push it out of the way. It will actually fit under the bench. I also had purchased off of eBay for a very, very cheap price, the computer you see. It was built by some company to be part of a surveillance system. It had cameras hooked up to it. It has 4 gigs of memory. It's got some kind of very small motherboard in it, a little tiny built-in power supply, and a built-in VGA monitor. One time it had a video capture card, which they removed, and a hard drive, which they also did not include in the auction. And I can't remember how much they were asking for it, but they had make offer, and I made an offer of like $10 or $15, and they took it. I had to put my own hard drive in it, take out a FireWire card that that Windows 7 couldn't identify and I couldn't find drivers for, but everything else is fine. It's got built-in Wi-Fi. Currently it is connected to a wired switch here in my shop, which is then connected to a little access point that's set to bridge the connection between my house, so I can have a wireless connection. The throughput is like, I don't know, it's something like 200 or 300 megabits per second, which is more than fast enough for out here. And also I installed this. We recently replaced the hood from our stove, and this is going to be hooked up to and vented to the outside, so if I'm doing anything that's making fumes or smoke, that I can vent it. It's fully functional. And this is something that I got from a kid I worked with at my job. He had bought a 95 Oldsmobile 88, and he didn't like the stock stereo, so he put in his old one, and I asked for the old one, and he gave it to me. So I've got it hooked up to a couple of Minimus speakers. I can put 4 speakers on it. At this point I may not. Not really any reason to. I mean, I could, but it was enough trouble running the wires for this. I did one thing that's kind of fun, I guess, just because I installed a automatic car antenna up on the roof, and we're going to try and do a little split screen here so you can see the two. So when you turn the power on, the antenna will come up, and then when you turn power off, the antenna goes down. So the antenna is up. Now we'll put it down. And so, I mean, that was it. I did that just because I have some control wire. Basically, it's 18 gauge wire. I got a half a spool of it from a Goodwill for, I don't know, some ridiculously cheap price, and I use that. There's a 4 amp power supply that powers the radio and the power antenna. Power antenna, normally when you turn it on, it draws about 1/2 to 1 amp, but when it reaches the end of travel for a couple of seconds, it goes up to 3 amps. The radio itself doesn't draw more than 1/2, like half an amp, as far as I could tell when playing it. There's much more I need to do to the shed. I need to rig it up so that I can put a camera like I had before, and make some more videos. But I think that's it for now. See you guys later.